Hi, and welcome to today's Energetic Arts training session. Just let me know that everything's working fine, sound, audio, internet speed, the planets are aligned, the stars are in position, and all the rest of it. Let me know you're ready to go. Let's go to the chat feed. Cool. Okay, so today's topic is changing the rule for success, removing blocks. Now, there's a lot of buzzwords going on around, removing blocks and overcoming adversity and all this sort of stuff. But talking about and working with for the last few weeks that, we can, change our perspective and then navigate into a different potential. It's not so much about removing blocks as it's been portrayed, and it's not so much about this law of attraction where we're attracting ourselves and having to do all this stuff to get to a certain point. I want to take this perspective, and it's a little bit out there, so just, ride with me for a little bit, is that if you're sitting still and you've got this energy moving through you and it's resonating at a particular frequency and speed, then what that does is it starts to create ripples in your reality, just like dropping pebbles into a pond. And depending on whatever frequency or state that you're holding and you're resting in, resting being the preferred word, will depend on the kind of ripples that you create. And that will have an effect on how reality fluxes. And when reality is finished fluxing and coagulates and solidifies, then it's going to come up as your perceived physical reality. Okay, so when we're in when we've locked in this particular state, this desired state of success, whatever that means to you, and you've done this before, whether it's with your job or whether it's with a hobby or some kind of skill, is that when you're there and you've mastered this particular state, this skill, you're at kind of a state of rest. It's like, so what? And so this is the kind of state that we want to align ourselves with when we're going towards what we're calling success in this context. So the problem I see most people doing is when they get into this and they're trying to create a successful thing, like some kind of outcome, they feel automatically there's this gap between the state that they're in and the state that they would like to be in, or what they think they're going to be in when they achieve this goal. And usually it's like right on that edge of it happening, and they're trying to perceive what it feels like to have it happen in that moment. And this is, in martial arts, we would say you're not hitting through. You've got to keep hitting through the target. It's the follow through. And so what you'll find is with anything you've achieved before, anything you've created or manifested before, is that when you get through that moment of creation and the excitement and the thrill of it happening, is that everything starts to sort of normalize again. And then you're sort of back to a resting state of where you were. But it's a little bit, obviously, the frequency is a little bit different. The code's been upgraded and it's been altered a little bit. So if any of you have bought a house before, for example, usually it's the first time you've bought a property. You get there and you go through the process and you're paying your deposits and you're signing all these forms and you feel like, oh shit, either this is really exciting or what the hell am I doing? And it's this real nervous sort of feeling. Reality starts fluxing because all of a sudden you're going towards a new potential. And then, you get into the new house or the house that you've bought or whatever, and you start moving furniture in and you set it all up. And then, 3, 6 months, a year in, you're just sitting there normally watching TV or having your meals or doing whatever you do in the house, and it's a normal feeling, but it's a new sense of normal. And so this is what I want to work on today in the exercise that we'll be getting into is um, putting yourself into this state of a new normal. And so when we're talking about blocks, okay, let's just put this to the side for a second. Let's go into, feeling of being abundant. And you can start to get into it and go, oh well, it'll be when I have this amount of money, or this type of house, or this type of relationship, or driving that car, or traveling this way, or this in my career, or this in my health, and blah 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 blah. And all these external circumstances are there to give you feedback, to reinforce that feeling of, say, being at ease and being relaxed, and being chilled out, for example. And so when we're moving towards anything, and we're always moving towards something, as soon as you start to hold a particular frequency and attitude, your energy starts to move in that direction. And so if you can start to just stay in that vibe, in that energy signature, and start to roll through and let that process unfold, then despite whatever changes and fluxes and reorganizes itself in your reality, if you can go back to that state, every day or several times a day, even if it's only for moments, and catch yourself not interrupting that process. And this is what the blocks are, is that you don't want to be interrupting that process, because what I see a lot of people doing is they're getting into that state, they hold on to it, they come out of a meditation, or they come out of, vibing in that new frequency, and then they get into their logic mind, and then they go, well, I have to do this and I have to do that. And they start planning it all out, and they start to sort of pinch it off and constrict it. And if it doesn't line up with their plan, then they think it's not happening. And this is the blocks that I'm talking about. It's not something that, is out there that you're going to run into as such. It's something you put in your own way before you can get to your destination. All right. It's kind of like if you got into an Uber and you put in your destination, and you're sitting in the back seat and the driver's taking care of it, and you're going through, and because it didn't, especially when you're not exactly sure where you're really going because you've never been there before, and you start directing the driver to turn left and right here and there and go off course. Obviously, if you keep going back towards that signature, you're going to redirect onto the course. But if you interrupt that process, it's going to take you a lot longer, and you might experience frustration and doubt and all those things. And it's also like, magically throwing a speed hump in front of the car when there's no need for it. So what I want you to do in this exercise is getting to that state of being in your future. And I'm not talking about just having it, I'm talking about like it's normal for you now. It's just how things are. It's how things have been for a long time. And inevitably, when you get into that state, if you're getting thrown out of it, or you're hitting speed humps or blocks, or you're getting redirected, I want you to see if you can catch yourself, stop that momentum, or redirect it. As soon as you see it, redirect it back on board, and just keep going back to a relaxed state, keep going back to a relaxed state, back to a relaxed state. Okay, so are you with me so far on this? Is this making sense? Any hurdles we need to talk about before we get into it? Okay, cool. So if you've got blindfold, this is good. I want you to take away the distraction of the external world, your external reality. We're going to not pay attention to the external reality for a while. Part of the blockages also that I see people run into is that they're looking for feedback in their external reality to see if they're on course or not. And this can also be a distraction, because remembering that, coming from the perspective that we've been talking about for the last few weeks, is that your awareness, your consciousness, your perception is projecting reality out into what you appear is outside of you for you to simultaneously perceive. Okay? So we want to get rid of all that distraction of what we have been manifesting and creating for ourselves and aligning with. And we want to go into a state of neutrality, or the void or space. Go in there and basically wipe the slate clean and recreate our reality from there. But we're going to do this firstly from a place of thought and feeling. And then when we're in that state, then we're going to allow the imagery to unfold in our mind like a dream. And then we're going to just rest our awareness on the dream that's unfolding. And if it's in line with the feeling, you're going to know it straight away. Just ride the wave as long as you can and stay with it as long as you can. And if you get bumped off, or you get knocked over, or you get pinched off or interrupted, notice that, slow down your pace again, get back on the beam, and off you go. It's a bit like a tightrope walker. We're not in a hurry to get to the other side. We're going to be training the skill of being able to stay on the beam and stay on the wire. Okay, so that's the aim of this exercise. So I'm going to put on some music now. I'm just choosing it out of my playlist. You may have heard this before. If you want the links to the music later on, just ask me in the chat and I'll make sure you get a link. And just sit back, relax, take a deep breath in, close your eyes, and let's begin. Just pay attention to your breathing. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Take a few long, deep, cleansing breaths and begin to settle in to this new state. This new frequency. This new way of being. And just relax. And allow yourself to feel feelings of being relaxed. Feelings of being calm. Feelings of being at ease. and allow everything in your reality for a moment to just dissolve. Into nothing. Let go of your past. Set down your future. And just bring all of your energy in to the present moment right now. Feel the relaxation. Being present right now. Just breathe and relax. Become still. Feel the energy of movement at rest. Pay attention to the process of flowing relaxed from one moment in time to another moment in time. Feel now being at rest and at ease. You flow from one perception of reality to another. Breathe and relax. Just relax. Deeper. Flow with it. Lean into it. Let your energy shift, change and flow from one state of being into another. Receive the downloads, the imagery of your new reality. Bring it into your body. Embody it. Relax into it. And allow yourself to feel the feelings that you feel. Stay relaxed. Relax just as much as you can. Just let go. Release. Your need to do anything to make change happen now. Feel the freedom of free falling into infinity. Stay relaxed. Focus on your breathing. Focus on feeling. focus on focus. Focus now. Stay relaxed. Relax more. Surrender now. And open up. To a deeper sense of being inside your body. Feel your energy moving in and around your body. And if you can, feel safe to relax even more and to align and tune into frequency, of the greater you. That is already there. Holding the space of the place where you're wanting to be. Feel the alignment taking place in this place. In time and space. Feel it all through your body, through your entire bioenergetic system. And rippling out just as far as you can. Out into the field of endless possibility. Stay centered. Remain calm and relaxed. Stay with it now. Ride the wave. Become a wave rider. A wave rider of reality. Pay attention to the movement of energy. Can you sense its patterns? And position yourself in the flow of receiving. Easily effortlessly and more relaxed. slowly, gently bring your awareness back to your body. Back to this place. Back to this time. Bring all the learnings and experiences with you. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And let me know when you're back. How do you feel? Feel different? Good. So if you have any questions, you can type them in now while I just go on to this little bit here. So what I've found in my experience is that the more relaxed you can be, the more energy you can allow in and receive. And that energy is of a more compressed nature. It has a lot more information in that energy. And it does all sorts of things to your system. It strengthens your immune system. It organizes your brain. It cleans your system out. It shakes up any dense stagnation. It basically gives you an upgrade, a biological upgrade. And you don't have to actually do anything. This is the thing about getting your success, is that you don't actually have to do anything about it in this context. It's more of a set and forget type situation where you go into a relaxed state, you open up the mind, you go deep into the deeper parts of the brain, out of the thinking logical mind and into the deeper abstract creative part of the mind, the older part of the brain, and you activate certain frequencies, certain programming that's been lying dormant there forever. And when that happens, it activates you in different ways that you maybe previously haven't either had access to or haven't had any conscious control in accessing and activating. And then that resets your whole energy field, which tunes in your body and the physical part of you into a different state. And then you start broadcasting that frequency out into your field. And then what happens is that energy starts to interact with other energy around it and changes it. And so you move from being an effect of causes out in your reality to being the cause of the effects of your reality. And this is what we mean by when we say that your external world, your external reality is your past. It is the manifestation of what you have been thinking and feeling previously. And so going in and into your reality and changing things, although there's things we need to do to match up who and how we're showing up to what's out there, and we can help it along, and we can participate in the changing and fluxing of that reality and that energy into a new frequency. But until we change in the center, we're not going to change anything outside there. It's, you know, I've heard this called combing the mirror, you know, or that post that I put up on Energetic Arts of the dog wanting the drink from the tap and he's licking the shadow when the water's coming out of the tap over here and the sun's shining the beam, which is casting a shadow on the wall, and he's licking the shadow on the wall to get a drink. You know, that's not how we get our success in life. And the other part that I wanted to bring up is that, you know, this concept of success versus failure, they are one and the same thread. So just like we've mentioned before, you know, Alan Watts would say, just as outside implies inside, self implies other, inside implies outside, up implies down. Success and, you know, and failure are the two sides of the seesaw. So, you know, when you're failing at something, you're learning how to tune that energy, and you're experiencing that contrast in your reality. And these are, you know, if we were doing, say, parkour, for example, you know, when I was speaking to the guys who are doing parkour, they don't see as an obstacle, as something that's hindering them. They look at it as an apparatus to propel and gain momentum towards where they're going. So, you know, if you get into this cycle of goal setting and seeking and success, then yes, you can do all that through active participation. But you get to the point where even if you're succeeding, there's always another goal, there's always another thing to go for, and it can become exhausting. So chasing your goals, chasing your success is not necessarily the best way to go about it, although you can do it that way. Sometimes it's best to rest in your success and get that feeling and that energy and that program, that energetic program, locked into your system as a baseline. So when you walk out into your world, into your physical reality, it has no choice but to flux, warp, and change around you and give you examples of the energy that you're setting out there to reinforce the energy that you're signaling. Is this making sense? This is a different approach, and this is where, you know, we eliminate the idea of having blocks, because there are no actual blocks to overcome. There are only misalignments in your programming of your energy that that may be interrupting you receiving and accepting what you've already created in your energy field. And so when we come up against blocks or failures or setbacks or whatever we want to label them as, although they can be frustrating and annoying, and you can put all sorts of meaning and place all sorts of meaning on them, They are really the apparatus for you to upskill yourself and to up-level your programming skills. Okay, and so we're not just talking about programming on a verbal language level, a neuro-linguistic programming level, although that's an important skill to learn about. We're talking about reprogramming our energetic signature. So when we're in a state of rest, we're creating the kind of reality that we're wanting to create, or we're sending ripples out into the field to coagulate into a physical reality to show us what we want to create. And so one thing I heard that was really useful is that if you're struggling, is to slow down and things aren't happening, is to slow down, back off, take your foot off the accelerator, put the brake on, come back to center, come back to stillness, reset your energy again, and then slowly, as a process, tiny little momentum build up to a pace, an amplitude of energy and a current that you can ride comfortably and sustain. And just go with that for a while until you get really good at that and that becomes normal for you, and then you can start to amp up things. Okay, so the metaphor that comes to mind is if we're learning how to ride a motorcycle, for example, a vehicle, or fly a plane, or drive a car, or a helicopter, or a human body, okay, through the infinite field of possibility, then it would make sense for us to get a handle on our skill set first before we start opening up the throttle. Because once we get up to really high speeds, it's, unless your skill set is up to the level and you're accustomed to that kind of speed, that kind of amplitude of energy, things can quickly come unstuck and get out of control. And then you can get into that, the Sorcerer's Apprentice illustration where, the buckets are out of control and, you don't know what the hell's going on. So if you want massive success in life, you need to learn how to stop and be still. And once you can do that, it's like, the person who wants to ride really fast on their motorcycle. Well, before you start getting into really high speeds, you would want to know how to brake really well and to stop in all sorts of situations, and how to corner, and how to, use all the gears and get your handle on all of the controls first. And once you're really skilled at that, and that can take a bunch of time, then there's no problem opening up the throttle, because you have so much control at that high speed and that high amplitude. And at the end of the day, to take the metaphor one step further, I remember speaking to a motorcycle enthusiast who said to me, he'd been riding for many, many years, and he said to me, you don't have to do 1,000,000 miles an hour to enjoy riding a motorcycle. And so, although there's all these things that we want to achieve and all these things we want to have in our life and acquire and receive and attract and whatever else, the real wealth, the real joy that you're going to get out of all this, when you're going to fall in love with your life, is when you're a master of these skills, and you're doing it for the sake of practicing the skill and growing your skill level, not so much of what you achieve. Because when you have the skill level and you can direct yourself into any type of future reality you want to, then it doesn't really matter where you are so much, because you're going to get to a point where you're going to create all these wonderful futures for yourself that you're going to show up in, maybe there will be a point where you get a little bit bored of, chilling out in all these beautiful environments, and maybe you want to put yourself into an environment where it's a bit more difficult, and there's more obstacles there, just like the parkour guys, and you want to test your ability to move through those obstacles and back into a higher frequency or whatever. So I hope this is a bit more clear in terms of navigating your way through your abundance. I've heard it before. People say, I want abundance in my life. And the reality is that you have all the abundance that everybody else has. It's just that maybe the skill level to be able to navigate is being directed towards things that you don't necessarily want to be abundant in. So let's start off general. Start off at a resting point, get that feeling, that state really locked in, and then embody that, feel that, start broadcasting that. And then when you come out of these exercises, or you're practicing throughout the day, just sit back and stay in that restful state and see what shows up and what reinforces and reflects the practice of this skill. And then when you start to get little glimpses, you're going to want to spend more time practicing, because you're going to want to see just how far you can take it. So we'll finish up there today. I hope that was enjoyable for you. I enjoyed that one. And just quickly, we've got Sunday session Q&A coming up, as you probably already know. Hopefully we get all the technical stuff worked out. Next week's up-and-coming webinar is called Observing It Done and Escalating Privileges, which is just what I was talking about. We start into a place where we're already there, and then from there we start to tweak and unfold it ever so slightly in every direction that we can, to see just how far we can go with it safely, easily, calmly, and relaxed. Great. I'm glad you're getting value out of this. If you find it is working for you, which I suspect it already has been, share it out, share the link, invite friends, all that sort of stuff. And we'll see you very, very soon. Thanks for attending, and see you next time.